Uh, oh, okay. Just finished watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, also known as the Very Bad Movie. Oh, okay. Well, okay. To say that it's bad is just categorizing it, really. As I mentioned previously, this was my first time watching the movie in quite a few years. Quite a few years. I really can't remember the last time I saw it. I'm gonna guess uh late teens, maybe, and that was probably just out of a hey, I'm bored, got nothing better to do, may as well watch something old that made me happy at one point. I don't know. All I know is there were good parts, to be sure, honestly. Firstly, everything that was mentioned in the well, really in both the Angry Video Game Nerds review of the movie and the Nostalgia Critics quick little review of it are valid. But that's not to say that it was entirely, completely flawed. For one, I still enjoyed watching all the turtles together. They all have their own unique character traits that have lived long past this movie and continue to be in this way. So at least there's that. I will say I do enjoy the fact that it does continue on with the story set up by the end of the second movie. Ergo, that it takes place in what they apparently call the den. It's not really a sewer per se. It's just an old subway station, I guess. And I always thought that was a really cool idea, nice little setup for them. It's not exactly a total sewer. It's an actual hell. I'd live there. To be perfectly honest, I thought it was pretty cool. The designs of the turtles is there have been better, for sure. The puppetry on it is definitely very lacking. But I will say that as long as you just kind of, you suspend your disbelief and something, I want to say, you can tell that the puppeteers were trying. They were really, really trying. And there were moments when I forgot that the puppetry was supposed to be bad, that I was able to allow myself to get into whatever the particular turtles were feeling. Two most importantly that I can say right now were Raphael and Michelangelo. And that's actually one of the nice parts about this movie is that it does its best to try to evolve their characters a little bit more, I want to say. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not even in their name. Teenage. They're teenagers. They're still growing up. So they still have to, learn how to, I dare say, be adults. Even though, of course, nowadays you can be 30 and still have a 12-year-old set mind. Or, okay, maybe 18, 20, but still. It could be considered a little forced, maybe, in a few parts. But for one, Raphael shows like his connection with the young child Yoshi is basically his way of trying to pass on fatherly knowledge that Splinter gave to him that he's trying to give to Yoshi, trying to teaching him, to control his anger, and that fighting is only a last resort. Which, to be fair, I mean, the turtles, we all love them because of their fighting. Yeah, sure, we love them also because they're funny, and, their villains are fun too and all that. But at the end of the day, it is, in fact, their fighting. So, almost ironic, not ironic, hypocritical, but it is still a good message to give to kids. And let's be honest here, this movie was made more for children than for adults. The first movie could be arguably made for the young adult, teenager, maybe the younger child who either has very understanding parents or they themselves are very understanding at a much younger age. So it's possible. The second one definitely went more towards the younger children, for sure. This one definitely is those younger, if not younger than that. So that is very apparent. But like I said, it's still a good message. Yeah, you should control your anger. And that goes for a lot of adults, too. Some of you know who you are. Most of you don't. But hey, we're all still learning. And like I said, Michelangelo, it was nice. It was nice to see him kind of going through a kind of a like or a crush for the female Asian lead, the Mitsu or whatever. So it was kind of nice to try to see him go through the kind of heartbreak, you could say, about being crushed. Like there's having a crush and there's being crushed by your crush. That's what I'm going for anyway. Then on top of that, on top of that, good stuff. Like I said, the puppetry could have been better, but there were moments where like I said, to suspend your disbelief, you can actually get into what the characters are feeling. Raphael in particular, when he was trying to console Yoshi in a few scenes. So that was nice. But then, of course, while yes, there weren't that many fight scenes per se, the fight scenes we had were okay. They were good. They were better than 2. Let's be real here. They were better than 2 for the simple fact that the turtles actually used their individual weapons. And in that respect, at least 3 of the 4 come to mind. One, quickly, is Raphael, him throwing his sai, stopping Mitsu in the battle at the too small to say lake, so pond, I guess. When they first meet the resistance, the rebels, whatever. They're fighting them because they don't know that the turtles are actually good guys. They think, because they're still wearing the samurai mask, so they think they're samurai. He throws the sai and cuts the arrow in half, and like that's actually kind of cool. It shows that he actually has skill. So that I don't think the second one really did that all that much for any of them really. The first one did with same still, Raph throwing a sai into the light bulb in the very beginning of the movie. So at least there's that. On top of that, we got the 2 most importantly would be, I will get that in a second, would be Donatello with his use of his, I believe it's bow or bow staff. That's what it is, bow staff. And it was nice to actually see him do actual fighting with it. Because I recall some, I haven't seen the first, the second in a long time. First one definitely more recently, of course. I believe my fiance and I tried watching that before we watched the new Michael Bay produced one. I'm not getting to that right now. And it was nice. It was fun. It was fun to see Donatello using the staff, because I so rarely ever really see him do it. It made him look much more of a badass, because of that, I feel like when I was younger, Donatello was usually the last character picked. Like, generally be either Raphael or Leonardo picked first. Like, hey, let's all play turtles. Okay, I'm Leonardo. Damn. Okay, I'll be Raphael. Damn. I'll be Michelangelo. And then there's Donatello. I mean, he does machines, and that cliche is ran into the ground in this movie. I don't recall it being that much in the second or the first, but this one, yeah, they definitely made up for it. Especially with his line of you think I could live without a single microchip? And that I thought was that was Donatello. That was Donnie, so whatever. Sidebar to that, I actually thought it was actually kind of cool. They brought Corey Feldman back to play the voice of Donatello. And I haven't done the research yet on seeing how many of the voices return for this movie from the previous movies. It sounds like the guy who's done Michelangelo has done all 3 movies. I want to say I think I looked this up before, and he did do all 3. The voice of Leonardo I'm pretty sure he's the one from all 3 as well. At least one of the other ones. I'm not entirely sure. Definitely not Donatello, and definitely not Raphael. I mean, his voice was definitely a lot different in the very first one, and I really don't remember him in the second one all that much. So I don't know. But still, I will say, like, I think it's partly because of the fact they brought Corey Feldman back. They gave him essentially all the bad lines of dialogue, and yeah, there were quite a few that made me cringe. But there were a few by him that were actual, they caught me off guard, and they were funny. The two most importantly were actually towards the end with Lord Norinaga, the stereotypical Asian bad guy for ancient Japan. And I'll get into that in a second. But for one, Lord Norinaga's just walking by and catches them off guard. Hey, Wayne Newton! And yeah, he kind of looked like Wayne Newton there. And then he comes out of the big gong after being hit by the cannon. His hair's all like just shooting up like this. Hey, look, Don King. Again, that was funny. So, yeah, were there bad dialogue moments? Yes, but there were also good ones, too. Maybe there were a few exposition dumps here and there. But, again, movie made for kids. Now, talked about Raphael fighting, Donatello fighting. Now, Leonardo being the third one. And I have to say, I still get that kind of little kid in me that gets excited when seeing them all fight. But again, Leonardo, he actually got to use his swords, his katanas. There's debate on whether they're actually katanas. I think Death Battle did something about this. Apparently they're called something different. The name escapes me. But either way, his swords, and he actually gets a nice fight between him and Norinaga. And I thought that was actually kind of cool. Because it's very rare for Leonardo to actually have a sword fight, at least as far as I can remember. So that, I thought, is actually a pretty decent point. It's not the best of fights. It's pretty short. But you get the gist of it. You get to see him in a fight with someone else in a pretty well decent match. I mean, it's supposed to be better. He's supposed to be like an awesome ninja and all. And the second in command or just flat out leader of the four, and you would think he'd have pretty good skills. So I don't know. So yeah, I will also say that I recognize something in this movie that I feel I kind of noticed in the second, but the first definitely made apparent, and that was simply the costumes. Not the puppetry per se, but the actual costumes. And by that I mean the lighting. And I think you could also make this argument for other movies, like the Godzilla movies and all that. Again, grew up on those. And if there's too much light, you can see it's fake. Plain and simple. Because, especially with these guys, I mean, you can see this. You can see the seams right here where the helmet meets the rest of the costume. And it can take you out of it. I mean, granted, again, the puppetry, the mouth movements, and all that. There's just something about the kind of flapping kind of. It just didn't look good. Just plain and simple, it just didn't look all that great. There's been better, and the second one definitely, and the first one too. They're still puppets. So as great as Jim Henson's company was, and always will be, there are limitations to puppets, and we all have to admit that. So with that all in mind, seeing stuff like that can kind of degrade the experience a little bit. But again, you know they're fake, so what does it matter? Another issue that I noticed that was, it's back and forth. I imagine if there was less light in it, it might have looked better. But I noticed that the costumes, they must have wetted them down a little bit to help to keep the whole shininess, the fact that they are reptiles, because turtles are still reptiles, so these guys are still reptiles. So to have wetter looking skin definitely makes them look more real, I guess, or it looks better on camera. But when there's too much light, it can actually, it shows more, and it just takes you out of it a little bit if you're not ready for it. Now, but I will say the story itself is simplistic. It's not like too overly complicated. The turtles need to rescue April from going back in time, and then they go back and they pretty much have to rescue themselves at the same time too. So, and the time travel thing was a little on the confusing side. I mean, at first, like, okay, so April goes back, and she still has her Walkman. For those younger viewers, a Walkman is known as a small cassette portable player, very similar to your CD player or even your iPod or iPhone. Now, that was a little on the confusing side. I saw that, I was like, oh, wait, what? And then she has her little bit about when she gets captured and the guards destroy her when it goes off. Funny. But I guess that was their excuse for a quick joke for having futuristic technology in the past, but also their excuse that validates how the turtles are able to go back in time with their weapons. Because when they go back in time, you can see them holding on to both their weapons. Like I noticed this when I saw Michelangelo holding on to both nunchucks, Raphael holding on to both sides, and after that I figured, okay, so that's how they did it. So okay. And the villains. Yeah, I'll just talk about the villains now. Cliche and stereotypical for sure. But that's not to say they didn't do a good job. Maybe their characters on paper weren't anything new or special. But the actors at least portrayed them well enough to get the point across, I guess. I mean, they weren't exactly entirely menacing per se, but to a child, I imagine they could be, a little bit. The Walker guy, he had his moments, to be sure, and I felt as though he was probably having a decent amount of fun in the role. He looked like he was anyway. As well as being good or bad, I don't know. They did their job. They were the bad guys, and then they had their comeuppance, so that was that. And as far as the story goes with the whole rebellion thing, whatever. It's ancient Japan. I guess there's rebellious stuff happening a lot, so that could have happened at any time. But I am in no way a history major, so that could be incredibly false. So, okay. Oh, and of course, the underdog aspect of the movie was the reintroduction, or not reintroduction, but the reinclusion of Casey Jones. Same actor as the first movie, so it's clear that they're trying to keep in continuity with the previous movies. And he was fun. I mean, Casey Jones was a cool character in the first movie, so he was fun to see in this movie. But at the same time, it almost seems like he was just an excuse to have him there, so that way they could have his ancestor in the past helping and betraying and helping again in the past. So, because then that way you could say, oh yeah, he's there, and then, oh yeah, Casey Jones is there too, so then that explains it. And kind of lame. He kind of seemed like he was underplayed and not used to his full potential. But, he did. I guess he did what he needed to do. I guess he was an ally. He was there to splinter sit, basically. And that was basically it, sadly. But then he had his fun with the samurai guys. They were fun. They had their moments too, for sure. And I am happy, actually. They focused more on the turtles in the past as opposed to the samurai guys in the future. Considering that they really could have done the whole, people from the past trying to understand futuristic technology and all that. And they had it, but they breezed over it pretty quick. And I'm thankful for that because we've seen that far too many times, I think. In so many movies that I dare not mention or count because it would take too long. So they accepted it, they knew what was going on, and they moved past it. So that was good. The two, I dare call it Asian leads, Mitsu and, I'm going to say, he was barely in the movie, so I forget his name. Yeah, I really can't remember his name. They were okay. I mean, they could have been better, they could have been worse, so, just whatever on that one. And then, of course, yeah, the Splinter puppet. Yeah, he looks like something out of Chuck E. Cheese, for sure. He looks like part of the band that plays. Actually, do they still do that? Honestly, do they still do that? I haven't been to a Chuck E. Cheese in decades, so do they still do the whole... I think they still do the guys in the suits walking around, but do they still have the band playing in the theater room? I don't know. I really don't know anymore. But he looks like he walked off that set, or rather was picked up and taken off that set. Because, yeah, you don't see his feet at all, and I think you see his tail once, maybe twice. And his voice is nothing special. And when you get used to the voice from the first two movies, then you hear this. No. It's pretty bad. But I will say the one good point that Splinter had in the movie was actually the ending. And as terrible as the joke was, and it was in no way as good as the funny that he made in the previous movies, definitely the first one was the best, simply because it didn't make a reference to Vanilla Ice. But simply, while the line and joke itself was stupid, it actually, when you really, and like I said, I'm going to pull on muscle on a few of these stretches, believe me, but, and this is probably the biggest stretch, is the fact that it's the very end of the movie. Michelangelo's bumming hard because I guess he was really crushing hard on Mitsu, and without being with her, he didn't like it. And he even flat out says, growing up, what a bummer. And almost kind of a sign to the kid saying it's gonna happen. So for that, he was bumming hard, and like any good dad, because at the end of the day, as much as he is their master, he is still he considers himself, and they consider him father. So he does what any good father does. He tries to cheer his kid up and by just being goofy. So yeah, it's not that bad. It could have been better for sure. It could have been worse, of course. But yeah, when you look at it like that, it's actually kind of a nice little scene. Oh, and then of course the very beginning and the very ending of the movie with the turtles dancing and all that. Most importantly, in the very beginning of the movie, this was something that James brought up, and I think his views on it were a little closer to more of a reaction, as previously mentioned, a reaction as opposed to a response. In that, yeah, the dancing was stupid, yeah, but still at the end of the day, they're teenagers. These are not adults. These are teenagers, and teenagers do goofy, silly things. Now, in the very beginning, or rather, their intro into the movie, they start out dancing around while practicing to ZZ Top. And I think this is a major reference, or rather a stretched out version of their meditating in the first movie. Excuse me. Splinter says, "Now let us meditate." And then Michelangelo and Donnie is dancing to Tequila. And you're like, well, it's kind of like meditating. And I still stay ninjutsu to Tequila every time I hear that song, for the record. So I feel that's what they were going for with this. They stretched it out and made it a little bit more goofy. But I think that's okay, because the entire idea of this isn't necessarily meant to be taken seriously. It's a ridiculous concept, but I'm not saying don't take it seriously when you make it, because you can make it serious for sure. But at the same time, if they want to be goofy, I think that's okay, because like I said, it's goofy, it's silly. It's for humanoid turtles practicing ninjutsu in their mid to late teens. So okay. And to be honest, this is where, that song actually, Can't Stop Rocking by ZZ Top, because of this movie, is actually probably one of my favorite songs. Just because it just gets my blood pumping. If I can play this at work, I do, and it just gets me in a good mood. And it made sense for them to be playing it while practicing, because that's what it does. It gets you going. Or at least it got them going. And it gets me going, I guess, on a subconscious level, because it makes me think of this movie. So, is it a terrible movie? Yeah, I guess. Is it bad? Definitely. But it's not without its good moments. And I will say any fan of the Turtles should see it. I can't say pass on it. Other things to pass on are things that happened after this, like coming out of their shells, or the TV show that attempted a live action version of it, which I applaud it for that, but I still to this day have not seen it, nor do I care to. And I will say I watched it for free just now on Netflix. So I mean, if you have access to Netflix, I say just check it out, see what everyone's griping about, and form your own opinion. Because at the end of the day, that's all that really matters, is your opinion to you. Whether someone agrees with you or not is irrelevant. And whether you agree with me is irrelevant. Because me, I'm doing my best to give you a different look at this. Whether you see it or not is up to you. So, I thank you for joining me. I hope you looking to see this movie. And, yeah. Carry on. See you later.